Hi folks, welcome to another episode of Who Said What. I'm your host Krishna, and for those of you who are new here, let me quickly set up some context for what this show is about. See, the idea is that I'll pick the most interesting and juiciest comments from business leaders, fund managers, and the likes and contextualize things around them. Now, some of these names might not be familiar, but trust me, they're influential people, and what they say matters a lot because of their experience and background. So I'll make sure to bring a mix. Some names you'll know, some you will discover, and hopefully it will give you a wide and useful perspective. Now for all the sources mentioned in this video, don't forget to check out our newsletter. The link is in the description below. With that out of the way, let me get started. So Reliance released its quarterly results last week, and it's one of those companies where you can learn something about almost every part of the economy. There's retail, oil, telecom, and even television ratings. But the part that really caught people's attention this time, and by people I mean people on Twitter, was Reliance Retail's comments on quick commerce. Now this is one space that's been interesting to track, and I have spoken about it a bunch of times. Even last week's Who Said What was about Blinkit choosing growth over margins. But Reliance's comments this time were worth pausing on. Here's what they said.
Right, so we have repivoted our model completely. The way we, pick and pack online orders, the way we deliver, setting up the dark store network, dark stores we started setting up over the last 2 quarters, right? Customer behavior is already there, right? Customers are getting used to quick commerce. What you have to communicate is your proposition.
Now that line stood out because it gives a sense of how Reliance, which is such a large conglomerate, thinks. Now the thing is that behavior didn't appear on its own. Over the last 3 or 4 years, companies like Blinkit, Zepto and Swiggy have been burning enormous amounts of cash to make people believe that groceries can arrive in 10 minutes and that this is the normal. And I want to go ahead and say that it has worked. It's now almost hard to imagine life without quick commerce. So yes, the behavior exists and Reliance is saying it can use that now to its advantage. And of course, it's not an empty claim either. Reliance already has something no one else does. Massive scale. The company's retail network spans over 19,000 stores and it keeps reminding everyone of that.
Also, big advantage we have is if you look at the competition today is mainly in the top 10-20 cities. We are present in almost 1,000 cities. Competition will take many years to reach where we already have a head start there. What we have to do is take share away from competition in the bigger cities, and wherever I am present, I have to firmly establish myself before anyone gets there. So that's a big advantage that I have, right? Nobody has the kind of network that we have in order to deliver this proposition to the customers, both in terms of network, the scale, the understanding of what sells in each geography, because grocery, as you know, a significant part of the assortment is localized, right? We already know what sells in that region because that's what we merchandise in our stores. So that's a big advantage that we have over anybody else.
Now that's their argument. Blinkit, Zepto, Swiggy, they are still focused on metros mainly. Reliance, on the other hand, already sits everywhere. So while the smaller players are trying to build density in limited zones, Reliance's game is to stretch the map itself. Now all of this is 100% true, but the core of quick commerce isn't distribution, it's execution. Here's how Reliance describes its own setup.
Yeah, see, 5,000 plus pin codes, 1,000 plus cities. The dark stores are more in the bigger cities where there are big gaps in the network, right? In the bigger cities, you cannot, because of traffic, you cannot go beyond 1.5, 2 kilometers for delivery. So a lot of dark stores are focused on the bigger cities. But then in addition, we have 3,000 plus grocery stores which are there, which are also participating, right? So majority of the deliveries are happening from the stores. Dark stores are only where there are gaps in the network, where in dense locations, where the distance is with the store is more to be able to meet the delivery expectations.
Now that's the key sentence. Most orders still go out from regular stores, which means pickers are walking through aisles designed for shoppers, not for speed. Now Reliance's stores are built for people to browse. Quick commerce doesn't work like that. In Blinkit or Zepto's world, the picker is the customer. The store layout is the product. Blinkit's dark stores, for instance, are built for efficiency. They are compact, tightly mapped and designed for a picker to grab, pack and hand off an order in under 2 minutes. The average Reliance Fresh, by contrast, is built for display and volume, not movement. So even though Reliance has the network, it doesn't yet have the design. And in this business, design is the difference between quick and commerce. Now what Reliance does have though is assortment. Now that's the retail language for the number and variety of products a business can offer. It's one area where Reliance genuinely wins because the company's supply chain and partnership give it access to far more SKUs than any other quick commerce platform, and it knows what sells where.
We already know what sells in that region because that's what we merchandise in our stores. So that's a big advantage that we have over anybody else.
The difference though is that Blinkit and Zepto understand this through digital behavior. They can see what's missing before it's even bought. Now Reliance's data is backward looking. It tells you what's sold, not what was searched for and abandoned. Now this was my understanding. Please do let me know if I'm wrong. In fact, in the last quarter, Albinder said this. In the most recent con call, he added,
I think currently our viewpoint is that our current geographical footprint helps us cover about 20% of the overall targetable retail market that we are looking at, right? Of course, we are looking at a geographic footprint, not at a store level footprint, right? And we believe that most of the profits and the high quality profits that we can target reside maybe in the top 40% of the targetable market. So I think that's where we are. But even with this 20%, I think we don't have the kind of coverage that that would help us to cover the entire geography. We've just gone and put a single store in a city like Asansol. We'll have to let it mature, see where that market goes, and if it goes in the same proportion of population and GDP per capita that some of the larger cities have gone, then of course that city has a potential to be like, multiple times bigger than where it currently is. But that is something we will only take a call on once we have the proof point. So we want to be conservative in this expansion because our cost of supply chain expansion, building the footprint, going deeper into those locations, making a lot more products available is substantial.
now Blinkit is still focused on building depth before scale. It knows what works in the top 10 cities and wants to make that model airtight before it spreads further. So here's where both companies stand today. Reliance is saying it can take advantage of the behavior that startups created using its distribution and pricing power. Blinkit is saying it will win through efficiency and precision. But it will be interesting to see who dominates this space in the future. By the way, I came across all of these comments because we run a newsletter called The Chatter, where we go through con calls and management interviews. We then pull out the sharpest quotes from the management and curate it in a crisp newsletter. I'll link it in the description below. Raghuram Rajan, the former governor of RBI, has a knack for spotting problems in the system before most people do. Before the 2008 financial crisis, he warned that the world's financial system had become too fragile. A warning few agreed with at that time, but one that proved right soon after. So when he speaks about what's happening now, which is why gold is surging, why markets feel euphoric, and why trust in global money is eroding, it's worth listening to. He recently sat down with Bloomberg's Odd Lots podcast, and what followed was a masterclass in reading between the lines of the global financial order. Now the conversation started by asking the most simplest and basic question. Why is gold up so much?
There's no single story, right? It's a number of stories. First, it started taking off, 2023. Clearly, there is an element of geopolitical risk. Many central banks looking at the militarization or the weaponization of payments are basically saying, do I want all my reserves in developed country currencies? Do I want something which I control directly? So a movement to gold for that reason may have started initially, a lot of central banks moving to more gold.
Now that shift, he explained, began around 2022 after Russia's reserves were frozen. When the US and Europe seized hundreds of billions of dollars of Russian foreign assets, it sent a chill through central banks everywhere. Until then, most countries treated their dollar or euro reserves as untouchable, the ultimate store of safety. But the sanctions showed that those reserves weren't really theirs if they sat in Western vaults. A single political decision could lock them overnight. For Raghuram Rajan, that episode changed the psychology of global finance. It made many governments, especially in Asia and the global south, ask uncomfortable questions. If my savings can be switched off, am I really sovereign? Should I keep everything in someone else's currency? Now that's when he says the quiet move towards self-custodied assets like gold began.
So trust has broken down in the system. And that's part of the reason why people are trying to build alternatives which don't make them dependent. Payments are so crucial.
Yeah.
You don't want to be dependent on any one country that can change the nature of payments.
But if this sounds like the beginning of de-dollarization, the great migration away from the US dollar, Raghuram Rajan isn't convinced.
Well, I think part of the reason is the TINA factor. There is no alternative, right? The US market is still the deepest market in the world, treasury markets and so on. It is liquid. Many institutions operate here. And yeah, people still trust the rule of law prevailing in the US.
The world, he says, may be experimenting with new payment systems and local backup networks. But there's still only one truly liquid global-scale financial center, the United States. When asked about BRICS, he was quite blunt.
The sense that they will come together with a common currency, I mean, forget about it. Okay. That's not going to happen. It becomes much less cohesive and seems much more like a anti-West kind of structure, which certainly India doesn't subscribe to, which Brazil probably doesn't subscribe to, again, to the extent that some of the others.
At best, he said,
may they build up a payments system which is different? Yeah, I mean, I'm happy as a country to be part of 5 different payment systems. It gives me diversification. If somebody tries to put the squeeze on me, I move to a different payment system. But does that mean I'm going to go towards a currency? Probably not.
Now that mixture of distrust and dependence, losing faith in the system yet unable to leave it, has created what he calls an odd kind of fragility. On one hand, everyone's hedging. On the other, everyone still rests on the same foundation. And it isn't just geopolitics. He spoke at length about how easy money and years of government support have left markets standing on shaky foundations. He warned that much of the world today feels, as he put it, priced for perfection. A place where everyone's acting like the good times will never end, even though they always do. Now there was more, of course. He went deep into what he sees as the next big risk, the boom in AI investment, the return of speculative credit, and the fading political consensus that once held strong institutions together. Now it's a wide-ranging conversation and you should definitely listen to the full episode. That's it for this episode. See you in the next one. For Raghuram Rajan, the episode changed the psychology. How do you say psychology? Psychology, yeah. स्क्रॉल कर लो चलेगा स्क्रॉल कर लो उल्टा साइड कीप स्क्रॉलिंग या स्क्रॉल